Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. And yeah, I'm going to give my final thoughts on what I think about Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 is because I finished the game last night. I finished the main story, I did all the DLCs, the side questing, not all of the activities, but I did as much as I could. And I'm ready to give my thoughts. So in the background you're going to see my final stream highlights some footage from from yesterday's stream. This is the final battle that's going to take place where we assault Talmberg. So yeah, what do I think about the game? I think first of all, I think the game is quite a dark horse, right? In 2018, there was no nominations for any big rewards. It wasn't included in game if for any of the awards for Game of the Year. I am not entirely sure why, but yeah, there was less marketing for the game, and I can totally understand it from a studio perspective. They didn't have the budget for it, but this game kind of like went under the radar until much later when this became insanely popular all of a sudden. And since Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 just got released as well, so the hype for the first game became even more. Hence why I also started playing it, because I wanted to play it before the second game drops. So from an action adventure RPG, purely from an RPG experience, I can tell you that this game delivers, right? It gives you a very true role playing genre experience. You can choose to tackle story elements, objectives, tasks in any number of ways. You can play a Henry you want in any number of ways. You could be an idiot, you could be shrewd, cunning, honorable, a cutthroat. You could be anything in between. You could play any type of moral compass of an Henry, right? Nothing is forced upon you. Your Henry can be anything he wants, right? Anything with a few restrictions to a character being from this time period, right? So that's said and done. The missions, the objectives, the tasks, the story missions, the side missions, everything was engaging. All the characters were very well developed, very well written. The dialogue was amazing. It was funny, it was humorous, it was serious, it was sad. All the emotions were there in different points of the game. It was quite nice seeing. The DLCs were also quite very interesting. The Woman's Law DLC kind of was a little bit too far fetched, because it was a bit difficult, because Henry, when you play as Henry at the very beginning, right, you felt like a total loser, right? You can't fight, you can't do shit, you can't get anything done, right? You lose objectives, you fail stuff, right? Until you learn to fight and become a better soldier, right? So you get that sense of progression. Now in Woman's a Lot, you take control of Teresa, and all of a sudden that portion of Henry growing is no longer applied to Teresa, and she can wield a sword out of nowhere and do a little bit of combat in a short span of time. So that kind of did not make sense, and hence Woman's a Lot felt a little bit unrealistic at times. Although I did enjoy the story, it gave some background stories to some of the other characters in the game. But yeah, it's still amazing. I would give this, you know, I think this game came out with quite a few bugs, right? There are still bugs existing. I think that's what kind of like held back this game back in 2018. Maybe I'm not sure, but with all the fixes that came afterwards, and all everything else, I think this game is in a really good spot. I'm going to give it, like, in my opinion, it is a solid 9.5, 9.5, right? And the the reason I can't give it a, what, I think I can just give it a 10. You know what? Because I really enjoyed the story, and I'm a story driven guy as well, right? So I can give it a 10, right? Uh, if you want, like, we can put it down to a 9 if we look at some of the bugs I encountered, like, throughout the game. So there's some existing bugs which kind of like makes the game a little bit annoying to play at times, but all in all, I think the game is really good, right? It's really good, and the way it ends, and it's really realistic in its storytelling, and it's very realistic in how it sets out, how it ends as well, right? It's not like you complete whatever you set out to do, right? You don't kill the main bad guy or anything, or it's like a very realistic story with realistic expectations, and you're like, okay, we'll get him next time. You Things don't work out the way you want it. That's how the story goes. So this is them setting up for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, right? And the second game is going to pick up literally from where you left off from the first game, so that's quite interesting. So yeah, dialogue is good. The amount of, and there's a very less hand holding at times. Like, they give you a sense of direction of what you can do in certain objectives, but you can also understand that that is not what you have to do all the time. You could find other ways of doing an objective and getting to a much more favorable outcome if that is what you need. So you can kind of like spend some time, look around. There are time sensitive objectives that you need to worry about, but other than that, like, you could actually do a little bit of investigation yourself and try to find different ways of completing something. So that's what I found very interesting. And from what I've heard, like, players are still discovering new ways of doing things. So yeah, it's all up to, like, it's all up to your imagination at some points, right? So yeah, and the combat system is very well done as well. The sword fighting, the archery. I think archery by far was the most annoying for me. I'm not sure how many people have mastered archery, but it was annoying. But the sword fighting is very. It feels realistic. It doesn't. You feel, you don't feel too overpowered at times, right? You feel like you're in actual sword fights. So it has a very well thought out combat system, and the the environment, right? The vibe of the environment, the setting is very well done. The castles, the villages. You really feel like you're in, the 14th century. You're in that period of time, and you are, it gives you a proper vibe, right? The setting is really well made and stuff like that. And the developers have already always talked about, like, how they're trying to be as architecturally and historically as accurate as possible to buildings of that time period. So because these are set on during real events, right? These events did happen. uh and a lot of these characters that you come across are actual historical characters. We don't know so much about Henry of Skalitz, right? Henry of Skalitz is just a fictional character just made for the game, but yeah, everything else is just amazing. So the question is, like, and I see a lot of people debating, is like, to play Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, do you have to play 1, right? And there's been a bit of debate, and there are people saying that, folks should. Uh, there's kind of a little bit of a turmoil, right, in the community. Some people just want to get started with the second game. Some people are saying that, hey, you can't play the second game until you play the first game, and I totally understand why people would say that, right? Because this helps you kind of like learn a bit more about the characters, so you can understand some of the characters, where they come from, what their mindset is, what their motivation is for certain things. So you understand the characters before you dive right into the second game. But I don't think you need to play the first game in order to enjoy the second game. I think that's always been the case when it comes to games, right? They kind of like make games in such a way where you don't feel like you need to play the first game so much just to. But if you play the first game, you will truly appreciate. I feel like you will truly appreciate the second game even more, because how well these games are done, right? You will truly appreciate the story, the storytelling, the characters. You'll learn more about them. You'll understand. It's just that you'll get a bit more sense of an understanding, and you'll be well prepared to play the second game, right? Because there's a lot of things that you can carry forward from the first game, from experience wise, from combat wise, on how to tackle objectives, how to tackle, NPCs and things like that, how to navigate through the day and night cycle, how to navigate through hunger. So with that knowledge, I feel like playing the second game will be a lot easier moving forward. So yeah, so there you guys have it. Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 is done and dusted, right? I am getting ready now to start Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Um, and I'm just hoping for another pleasurable role playing experience. We are going to still play as a, semi honorable Henry, the one who is a flexible moral compass, who is honorable at most times, and then if needed, can turn into a little bit of a sly, shrewd, cutthroat if needed, right? And who's trying to be as diplomatic in most situations, but last resort relies on his sword if needed. So that's the kind of Henry we're playing. A very reasonable Henry, right? A very smart Henry for that time, right? Not a peasant Henry. Was a peasant at the start. I was stupid at the beginning, but then kind of like learned my mistakes. And yeah, so I hope you guys, find Kingdom Come Deliverance, either the first game or the second game, whichever one you guys choose to play, enjoyable. I would just recommend playing either one of them, right? Maybe the first or the second game. I would say, in my opinion, right, if you want to understand the story and the characters and get yourself better prepared for the second game, I think just play the first game because it is not that long, right? The game is really not that long if you focus on the story, on the main story. But I don't know if it's easy to get, you know, the best outcomes if you just focus on the main story, right? Because some villages may be killed by the plague, some plagues, and shit might happen, right? So just on the main story, if you focus, the game is quite short, right? There's not a whole lot, right? But it's the side questing, the missions, the tackling other situations around the world, helping other cities and villages so that they kind of like influence the main story in a little way, right? So you get better outcomes. That's where the chunk of time comes in. But the main story wise felt very short. I felt like I didn't do a whole lot, right? I spent a lot of my time just helping other folks and things like that. So yeah, there you guys go. Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 done and dusted. I will be starting Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 soon. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next live stream or video. Till next time then. Bye bye.